All right, BarNaturalPrez, talk to the people, man. Let them know what's getting ready to go down.
What's going on, YouTube? You're here with the Prez. You already know, here with Good Money today. And today I'm going to be talking to you guys about the best science-based diet to build lean muscle. So when we say science, I'm going to be breaking it down for you guys, talking to you guys about the macronutrients, how the body utilizes them, etc., etc. So when we talk about macronutrients, remember, there's only 3 macronutrients that your body can digest and assimilate and use for energy and use for any type of cellular work, right? And that's proteins, carbohydrates, and fats. And remember, just a quick rundown, protein, 1 gram of protein is always going to be worth 4 calories. 1 gram of carbohydrates is always going to be worth 4 calories. And 1 gram of fat is always going to be worth 9 calories. So let's just say, for instance, you had a piece of food that on the label says has 1 gram of fat, 1 gram of carb, and 1 gram of protein. The total calories in that is going to be 9 calories from fat, 4 calories from carbs, 4 calories from protein. So 9 plus 8, that's 17 calories. Just a quick rundown on calories and macronutrients, remember. So your body wants to use these macronutrients to supply it with energy. Now, you guys want to learn how to build lean muscle mass. Before we get into telling you guys how to build lean muscle mass, I'm going to tell you this. If your goal is to look leaner and you guys are carrying body fat on you, your goal should be to cut down body fat. That should be the goal. Under that body fat is going to reveal all that muscle that you're working for. If you're somebody like me that's leaner, that's trying to put on muscle, everything's going to have to work a little bit different as far as diet and when you want to eat and what you want to eat, etc., etc. So let's talk about somebody that's lean, looking to put on lean body mass. Remember, lean body mass means putting on as much muscle as possible and as minimal fat as possible. So remember, there's only 3 types of macronutrients: protein, carbohydrates, and fats. Protein is not an energy macronutrient, meaning the body doesn't want to use it to supply it with energy. Protein is used as building blocks. Remember, protein breaks down to amino acids. Amino acids are known as building blocks. Building blocks meaning they build things up, they repair things, they repair muscle when it's broken down, they repair tissue and cells when they're damaged, etc., etc. So that leaves 2 other macronutrients that your body wants to utilize for energy. We have fats. Remember, fats worth 9 calories a gram, and then we have carbohydrates. Carbohydrates worth 4 calories a gram. Don't worry about the calorie content of these macronutrients right now. We're just talking about how to eat to build muscle, or how to eat if you're trying to lose body fat. And we're going to go through how to eat to build muscle first. So if your goal is to put on muscle and you're relatively lean, what you guys should focus on in your diet. Okay, it's always going to depend on when you train and what type of day you're training. I always tell that, especially when I'm working with one-on-one and doing custom plans for somebody. When you train and the timing you get these macronutrients in is going to have a big difference on the outcome and the progress you guys make, right? So you want to think about tailoring around your training. Muscles, what do muscles use for energy? Muscles want to use glycogen. What is glycogen? Glycogen is the stored form of glucose, which comes from carbohydrates. So now think about this, guys. Glycogen comes from the muscles, and where does that come from? Glucose, which comes from carbohydrates, right? So if you're doing resistance training, a type of exercise that's going to break down muscle, not aerobic training, not cardio. Cardio does not break down muscle. That is considered aerobic activity. Resistance training, the routine that you see us doing on the bars, dips, pull-ups, somebody bench pressing, somebody squatting, that is considered resistance training. That is promoting muscle breakdown. What happens when you break down muscle? It's breaking down glycogen. Glycogen, which was stored in the muscle from the carbohydrates you eat. Now, if your goal is to put on muscle, what happens when you're done training, right? So say we just got done training a big chest workout, right? We did 5 exercises for chest, 3 sets each, right? So we did 15 sets of chest work, high intensity chest training. We did a lot of work. We broke down that chest muscle fibers over and over. We depleted all the glycogen that we had stored in there before the workout, right? Now what? You're looking flat. What do you have to do to replenish? Now you have to start putting glycogen back in the muscles. Glycogen, and what did I say before, is a repaired macronutrient? Protein. Remember, breaking down muscle causes muscle damage. Breaking down muscle causes glycogen depletion. So 2 things are happening when you're doing resistance training. You're breaking down muscle, the amino acids stored in the muscle, and you're breaking down glycogen, which is the energy stored in the muscle. That's what's providing the cellular work for you to constantly get those reps in. It's the stored glycogen that comes from ATP and phosphocreatine stored in the cells, right? So when you break down your muscles, when you're done training, how are you gonna replenish your body so you could start repairing and rebuilding to put on lean muscle mass? What you don't want to do after workout is give your body fats, because remember, fats are going to be slower digesting. Remember, fats have 9 calories, so to break down 1 gram is going to provide more energy, but it's going to also provide more work for the body to do, which you don't want. You just broke down your muscles, you just did a heavy chest workout, or you just did a heavy pull-up workout, you did 500 pull-ups, your back is lit, your biceps are lit, everything's broken down and tired. How do you replenish that? You want to replenish it with glycogen and amino acids. You guys have heard me talk about this in the past. I sip on amino acids either during or right after I train, along with carbohydrate powder. You guys should, that's what I recommend. Remember, protein, whey protein, steak, chicken, eggs. Either if you're getting it from tofu or whatever you want to consider your protein source. When it hits that bloodstream, it breaks down to amino acids. What are amino acids? They're the building blocks. They're the repair macronutrient. So right away you start drinking your protein post-workout, it's gonna go and recover and replenish those muscles that were just broken down. You pair the protein with the glycogen, which is the carbohydrate source, which shuttles the carbohydrates into the muscle. Now listen, this is where we're gonna talk about science. So remember, science-based way to eat. When your body breaks down glycogen, remember, glycogen comes from carbohydrates. Carbohydrates could be a sweet potato. Carbohydrate could be a piece of broccoli. Carbohydrate could be a piece of white bread, rice cake, white rice. Those are carbohydrates, starches, vegetables, right? Protein, you're gonna consider meat, eggs, whey protein powder, right? So when your body breaks down these carbohydrates, you guys have heard of simple sugars, and I'm sure you guys have heard of complex sugars, complex carbohydrates and simple carbohydrates. Let's think about this scientifically now. Simple. If it's something simple, that means it's easy. So if you're ingesting a simple carbohydrate, that means it's easy for your body to break down. You want something easy for your body to break down after workout. Why? Because you want it to be able to get to those muscles fast. So what happens when you ingest simple carbohydrates is your body releases insulin. Or anytime you eat carbohydrates, they break down into glucose in the body. Glucose is blood sugar. So when blood sugar is in the body, whether it comes from a simple carbohydrate or a complex carbohydrate, the source of the carbohydrate is going to depend on the rate of which the sugar enters the body. So post-workout, you'll hear people say, oh, we should eat sugars post-workout, or simple carbohydrates, which is correct. You want to mix a simple carbohydrate, which is why you hear me drinking carb powder. I drink an organic maltodextrin and dextrose mix, or I'll eat white rice immediately after I work out, because it's something that the body's going to utilize and break down fast. It's going to hit the bloodstream fast, and it's going to cause a quick release of insulin. You guys will hear about people having blood sugar problems, diabetes. People that can't control their insulin or have it released up and down too often throughout the day, that's when problems occur. You want to think about it scientifically. You want to give your body a reason for it to spike its insulin and a reason for the insulin to be utilized. So if you finish training, as soon as you're done training, you break down muscle glycogen. You want to drink, like I said, either have a whey protein shake with carbohydrates or have a meal with simple carbohydrates and protein. What that's going to do is the carbohydrates are going to hit the bloodstream fast. The insulin is going to release from the pancreas, and the only place that blood and that glucose is going to want to go back to is the muscles that were just used, that just got broken down. They're starving to be replenished. So all that glucose is going to be shuttled into the muscles, and what's going to happen, that amino acids that break down when you eat the protein or the whey protein powder, they're going to bind. Everything's going to get shuttled to the muscles together post-workout. That's how you repair and replenish your body after a training session. That's how you optimally build muscle without worrying on putting on body fat. So post-workout, you want to keep the food sources to a fast digesting carb and a good source of protein. You want to keep the fats minimal to the immediate post-workout period, because that's going to slow down the rate of absorption throughout the muscles and everything. Staying on this topic, and this is for somebody that's relatively lean, right? We're going to talk about pre-workout nutrition. If you're relatively lean and you're trying not to burn any more muscle, you're going into this workout where your sole focus is to build muscle and not put on body fat, your pre-workout nutrition is going to be very important also. You guys have heard me talk about in the past that if you have body fat on your body, stored body fat still, and your goal is to cut down and show that muscle, there is no need for you to ingest carbohydrates pre-workout, because then you're letting your body utilize the stored fat that it has in its body for energy. If you're using the stored fat for energy, your body's gonna burn off the stored fat. If you're lean already and you don't have much stored fat, your body's gonna wanna pull from those muscles, gonna wanna pull from the glycogen stores first. And the reason and the way that you prevent that from happening is having a carbohydrate pre-workout. Now this is where you'll hear people say you should have a slower digesting, a more complex carbohydrate pre-workout. Because remember, simple carbohydrates is gonna spike the blood sugar, it's gonna cause a fast release of insulin. It's gonna force the insulin to push that blood somewhere. And if it doesn't have a reason to go to the muscles, which it's not gonna have a reason to go to the muscles pre-workout, it's gonna get stored as body fat. That's when you'll hear people say sugar makes you fat. That's not the case. Carbs will make you fat and sugar will make you fat if you have no way to utilize it. So you can either let your body run off of fat, or you can let your body run off of carbohydrates. If you're lean, let it run off of carbohydrates. If you're a little overweight and you wanna burn off fat, let it run off the stored body fat that you have. So if your goal is to cut down weight, cut some body fat, you have plenty of stored energy on your body to power you through a workout that's gonna last you at least 90 minutes. Maybe if you pass that 90-minute mark, you may start burning out and getting some lactic acid buildup because the may now start pulling from more muscle reserves and glycogen reserves. But if you're someone relatively lean, I definitely recommend eating a pre-workout meal that's, again, relatively lower in fats, not obsolete of fats, because you want some fats to help slow the release of the carbohydrates. You want a good quality protein source, and you want a slow releasing carbohydrate, a complex carbohydrate, something like a sweet potato, something like oatmeal. Why? Because that's going to enter the bloodstream slower. It's not going to cause a quick release of insulin from the pancreas because it's not going to be a sudden rush of sugar in the blood. A slower digesting carb is going to slowly release sugar in the blood, as opposed to a fast digesting carb, which is going to rapidly put sugar in the blood. So think of it like this: replenishing, repairing a muscle after a workout, you want protein and a faster digesting carbohydrate, because a faster digesting carbohydrate is going to put sugar in the bloodstream faster, and it's going to allow the insulin that's released from the pancreas to shuttle that sugar that's in the blood into the muscles that were just depleted and now are starving. But if you try to do that before you work out, right? So say you start eating a bunch of simple carbohydrates prior to working out, all your body's going to do is just going to keep getting blood sugar rushes. There's going to be a lot of sugar in the blood. The insulin's going to have nowhere to put it because the muscles haven't been broken down yet. So it's going to have no choice but to store it back in the liver and then back in the adipose tissue, where it starts creating more fat cells and you start gaining body fat. So think of it scientifically, guys. It's simple. I'm going to break it down for you. A lot of people like to overcomplicate this. You think about when you eat carbohydrates, whether you're eating simple or complex, if you're going to be spiking your insulin and spiking your blood sugar. So if you're eating a piece of white bread, white rice, fruit juice, not so much fruit in itself, but fruit juice, because it's absolute of the fiber. Remember, fruit juice is pretty much all sugar. Remember, fruit juice, white bread, white rice, candy, things like that. They're going to be faster. They're going to be faster to hit the bloodstream, faster to cause a sugar rush in the body. And you want to think, when should you want a sugar rush in the body? When the body has a reason to utilize that sugar and push it somewhere. And when I say push it somewhere, I mean push it back into the muscles. It won't push it back into the muscles if the muscles haven't been broken down yet. So for instance, I just finished doing a heavy chest workout before we filmed this. What did I have as soon as I was done training? My amino acids and my carbohydrate powder. The amino acids already broken down, pre-digested protein, and that carbohydrate powder, it's pre-digested carbohydrates. It hits the bloodstream instantly. As soon as it hits the bloodstream, that insulin's releasing from the carbohydrates and is shuttling back into my muscles, replenishing the glycogen that I just depleted during the routine. So listen, guys, I really encourage you guys to think of it scientifically when you're thinking about your nutrition. If you're overweight and your goal is to cut down body fat, let me say this: you can never outwork your body fat. You cannot just say, I'm gonna just keep getting bigger and bigger and build more muscle and I'll eventually fill out this body fat. It'll never happen unless you start doing steroids or external supplements like that, like gear. If you're doing it natural, the only way to start showing your muscles is to decrease the body fat. And the way you decrease the body fat is by staying in a slight calorie deficit and working on resistance training, focusing on building as much muscle as possible. And when it comes to working on building lean muscle mass, another main point, guys, besides diet, is the type of training you're doing. You do not want to focus. Remember, your body understands signals. It's going to understand the signal you send it the most. So now, people that have a goal of losing fat, right? Those that, I should do more cardio, more cardio, more cardio. More cardio is just going to be something to burn fat, and eventually it's going to send a signal to just get rid of all the excess weight on your body. Muscle is one of the most metabolically cost-effective things for your body, right? Your body doesn't want to hold on muscle mass. It wants to shed that the most because it costs the most for it to maintain it, right? You got to do the most effort to maintain that muscle mass. You got to resistance train to maintain it. If you're sending the body the signal to just keep doing cardio, and not resistance train, you're going to eventually just keep burning away that muscle. So whether you're in a deficit and your goal is to cut body fat down, you should maintainly focus on resistance training, heavy lifting, working in that 1 to 5 rep range, 6 to 12 rep range, occasionally working in that 15 to 20 rep range just to get a little bit of pump, but focus on maintaining as much muscle mass as possible while eating in a slight calorie deficit. Slight calorie deficit meaning 250 to 350 calories max a day deficit. That's gonna help you do it consistently and steadily weight loss, right? And if your goal is to be building muscle, if you're lean and you wanna put size on, remember you gotta be in a calorie surplus. You gotta be eating more than your maintenance. Again, if you're in a deficit of 250 to 350 to lose, that means you should be no more than 250 to 350 to gain. You can go as high as 500, but then people tend to go higher than 500. That's when you start getting more body fat. Your body does not need that many excess calories to start putting on muscle. It's just a slow adaptation. Your body's used to one state, so if your maintenance is 3,000, your body's used to 3,000. You start giving it 3,200, 3,300 calories. That 300 calories is gonna be very efficient for your body. It's gonna start utilizing them efficiently. And that's how you minimize the fat gain and maximize the muscle gain. Not giving it too much extra energy, just giving your body the energy it needs to sufficiently either repair and build or cut down and lose the body fat and maintain as much muscle mass as possible. Hope this gave you guys a little insight of to diet, training, how you guys should be training, whether your goal is to lose weight and get a little leaner to show the physique that you guys have been working for, or if you're already lean and you want to put some size on like I want to do. So let me just give you a quick breakdown of my morning routine, right? So I wake up 6 a.m. So somebody like me, and there is a way that I like to try to keep my body in a fat burning state for as long as possible during the day. George, let me get my water quick.
Yeah.
So I do like to try to keep my body in a fat burning state for as long as possible, right? So it's 12 p.m. Me and George, we linked up today for this video. And before this, we did a workout, right? So typically when I train myself, I train daily around 1 p.m. I'm usually up 5 or 6 a.m. every day before I train. So I'm up usually about 6 hours before I train, right? I like to get 2 solid meals in. Now, like I said, the pre-workout meal, I always recommend if your goal is to put on size and not pull from glycogen and you're already lean and you want to build muscle, the pre-workout meal, the same as mine, should have slow digesting carbohydrates, protein, a little bit of fat. But that's only the one meal before I train. I had one meal prior to that, and that's when I like to keep my body in that fat burning state. That's when I don't like to ingest any carbohydrates. So I wake up at 5 a.m. First thing I do, I usually walk my dog, so I get some steps in, a little bit of aerobic work, get some cardio, get the heart rate up, right? The first meal of the day is always protein and fats, which I've told you guys numerous times. You could keep your body in a fat burning state, right? You wake up from sleeping, you're already in a fasted state. To keep your body in fat burning mode, just don't give it glucose. The second you start giving it glucose, remember carbohydrates is glucose, it's gonna want to convert and start using that glucose for energy. So all morning long, I eat at 6 a.m. and then I start training at 12, right? So from 6 up until my pre-workout meal around 10:30, 11 a.m., I'm running on just protein and fats, and I'm still basically burning off fat from the night before because I haven't given my body a reason to utilize glucose yet. Now it's 10:30, 11 a.m., it's time for my pre-workout meal. Now I'll ingest my first carbohydrate of the day, which usually now for me, what you guys have seen in my green shake, I put oats, some bananas, slow digesting carbohydrates, oatmeal, fruit. Digest slower, it's not gonna cause such a rise in insulin in the bloodstream. It's gonna steadily supply me energy throughout my workout, as opposed to if I was to eat a piece of white bread, it's gonna give me a quick insulin spike, quick energy rush, and by the time my workout comes, I'm gonna crash and I won't have that energy. So, simple carbohydrates prior to the workout, about 90 minutes to 2 hours prior, if you don't want to pull from muscle. If your goal is to lose body fat, you don't need to ingest any carbohydrates. You can push all your carbohydrates to post-workout when you want to replenish the muscle that's broken down. Let your body constantly pull from its energy stores, from its stored fat, if your goal is to lose weight. If you're lean already, like I said, feed yourself some simple, some slow digesting complex carbohydrates pre-workout, post-workout, whether you're drinking a pre-digested carb powder or eating a meal with white rice. That's when you can have the white rice, the white bread, the white potato, something that's gonna hit the bloodstream faster, replenish the muscles instantly, along with some protein. everything gets shuttled to the muscles. And again, guys, I ain't talking about vegan sources. If you're a vegan, do it the same way. Get the protein and the carbohydrates in right after the workout, and everything will work out for you guys. And again, just make sure you're tracking your protein intake throughout the day. I recommend everyone to be hitting, especially if your goal is to, listen, if you're cutting, regardless if you're cutting or building muscle, minimum 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight, not per kilo. So you weigh 160 pounds, I recommend getting 160 grams minimum of protein. And that's a minimum. I'm on the higher side, I go 1.5 grams of body weight, so I'm usually around that 220 grams a day protein. So, like I said, I hope this gave you guys a little insight, taught you a little something. If you guys have a question, leave it in the comments section. You can also check out my website, BarNaturalPrez.com. I have a calculator on there that you guys could use to check out your energy spend. If you're trying to figure out how many calories you burn a day, or how many calories you need to eat to cut or bulk, etc., go on the website, BarNaturalPrez.com/calculator. The calculator will pop right up. Or just check out the website, BarNaturalPrez.com. I have a bunch of great calisthenic programs, all pre-designed. I have diet plans for all levels. I also have personal training services on there that you guys can check out. Yo, thanks again to Good Money for putting me on the channel. Appreciate it every time.
You're welcome.
You guys have seen more of me. It's been a while since we linked up.
Yeah.
It's been a while. You guys know I've been dealing with that elbow injury. It's finally healing, almost been about a year now. So we're getting back to it, guys. Peace out. You already know.
Right.
Bar Naturals.